see how hurt I am.
You could see the sudden change in his client's affect and his deep contemplative thought after what was said and after he was fully accepted for a side of him that traditionally he hasn't been his whole life. Abraham Maslow has a lot of contributions to the humanistic approach, and he said that people have an actualizing tendency inside of them. If all your lower needs are met, then we naturally pursue higher needs of realization, fulfillment, and self-determination.
Yeah.
Rogers himself believed that every client, when coming to see a therapist, has an underlying subconscious question that the therapist should help them answer, which is, how can I discover my real self?
I'm so proud.
My name is Santera Quigley, and the folkway me and my group chose to violate was being in others' personal space. We chose this folkways because people's reactions tend to get socially awkward or annoyed. In today's society, violating someone's personal space can be considered against the law because society is trying to maintain the practice of social distancing. However, if the pandemic never happened, violating someone's personal space can be considered as socially unacceptable and or rude.
Violating this folkway or violating individuals' personal space was not easy for us. In the beginning of our social experiment, we decided to go into a classroom full of college seniors and sit down next to them. We had Professor Kamiga hold the phone at an angle so the individuals had no idea they were being recorded. This was very nerve-wracking and left many of the seniors very confused. In the video, you noticed how they all turned their heads in confusion, but continue to go about their day as normal. For our other violations, we decided to go around campus, to the library, the gym, and the cafe. We chose to violate the norms around campus because it is somewhere we are familiar with, and it made completing this project a little easier. Whether you're on campus, or at the store, or wherever typical normative behavior occurs, when personal space has been violated, most individuals react in confusion or nervousness and move away, which we saw a lot throughout our experiment. We broke this folkway a total of 5 times around campus. Breaking this folkway required a lot of courage within all of us. Trying to shake the nerves was the hardest part, but the reactions we received from this violation were worthwhile.
The conclusions that can be made about our social behavior experiments are that when people act outside of the social norms, like us performing those experiments, the people that we performed the experiments on got very uncomfortable. And because people's expectations about social norms, like whenever somebody violates those social norms or act outside of the social norms like we did, people got very uncomfortable and they were very confused on why we were doing the things that we were, because our behavior isn't expected in our society. Like it's very rare to encounter somebody that violates social norms because they're so instilled in our society. And people got very uncomfortable when we were acting the way that we were because people aren't used to it and it's outside of our norms in our society. And social patterns exist in these reactions because everyone in our experiments reacted the same way. Like they all were very uncomfortable. They were looking around. They were getting really confused. They inched away from us. So yes, social patterns exist in the reactions.
So, as we performed our experiment, I think people generally reacted the same. They didn't kick us out or tell us we can't be near them, although you could tell it made everyone feel a little awkward. But male and female-wise, I think both reacted generally the same, as well as everyone was in the same, age group, it seemed. I don't think any reactions were, extremely different. but I do think that people in groups behave differently. For example, in the classroom when we sat by them, they all looked to the professor and to each other. But when we went up to a single person alone, they may have felt awkward, but they didn't necessarily do anything or say anything. Opposed to this, when Centauro went over to the group of 2 boys, they ended their conversation and walked away. But nobody by themselves just got up and left, whereas in a group, it's a little different. I was surprised by getting little reaction from some people. Nobody really said we can't sit by them, nor were they really rude about it. They may have casted a few glances, but it didn't really, it wasn't the reaction I thought I would get. I figured some people would question it in the classroom, or even to get up and move away from us instead of staying in the same spot next to us. But yeah.
Breaking the social norm of personal space was not easy for me, and it made me very uncomfortable. It just made me think of how I would feel if someone violated my personal space, because at times, of course, everyone wants to be left alone and by themselves, and if a random stranger just comes up to you and sits next to you, it's go away. I want to be myself. It definitely was very difficult to do, but after doing it just made me realize that personal space is definitely very valued, and you don't really see a lot of people violating personal space. For example, when I was in the cafe, a lot of people were just sitting by themselves doing homework, or obviously with friends, so it's not a very common violation. So that is one reason why we did choose personal space. How does this connect to the power of social norms? Why do people follow or refuse these norms? I believe that they follow these norms because, like I said before, they want to think of it as if they were in someone else's shoes. They don't want their personal space violated, so why would they violate someone else's personal space? So that's why I believe that it should be followed by everyone.